Hello everyone, welcome back. Previous episodes I've implemented this search functionality to crawl or query podcastindex.org's API to show results, and today's episode I just want to include a button to subscribe to each of these podcasts. So when you click on subscribe, I want it to show up in this homepage of podcasts that you've subscribed to. So yeah, let's get to it. So I'm just in this search result page. Let's just add a new subscribe button. Let's add a success link, and let's just call a new URL called like import feed, and the URL is going to be result dot original URL, and we're going to URL encode that. So if we go back here and click stuff you should know, okay, it's going to complain about this URL because I've not actually made it yet. I'm going to call this import feed, import feed, and then import feed. Then in views, we're going to have import feed request. Just stub that for now. Refresh our page. Okay, so it looks like it is actually like URL encoding some of that stuff. So let's just add a breakpoint here and make sure that everything is as it should be when we click subscribe. If we look at our breakpoint here, we have like our request, and we have like the URL in this request data. So what we can do now is like actually fetch this using our like parsing logic and ingest it ourselves instead of like relying on the data that's provided to us by podcastindex.org, because they only give us really like basic information like the feed URL and the description and title. We actually need to go and fetch the episodes for you, so just whack continue there. Yeah, let's try and implement this. So as inspiration, I guess we're gonna have to look in admin and basically steal some of this code. Potentially there's scope to reuse some of this, but for the time being I'm just going to copy paste, and we can potentially revisit some of this later. So instead of like an object feed link, it's going to be the request.get.url here. If request.get, if the URL is in request.get, then we can do this. Maybe we need to restrict this to just get requests, like Django only allow get. There's definitely some kind of allow method thing. Django allow methods, view decorators, require HTTP methods. Yeah, we just want require get, so we know it's always going to be get requests only. So require get, let's just decorate this with require get. I know search is only ever going to be like require get as well. The rest of them are detail on this view, so we don't really care. So if URL is in request.get, we can say URL equals request.get. Can I do that? Maybe I can. So then we can say if URL, and then we don't have to look it up twice. Then we can return a redirect for that podcast. See if this works. Go back here, refresh this page. Let's first try this with a podcast that we know actually passes, because my concern is, okay, pass podcast is not defined. My concern is that actually we might run into issues with the parser, which we can fix at a future episode. So from parser import pass podcast. Has this appeased the Django gods? Seems to have been. I feel like it is importing this podcast. List object has no attribute get. Where are we at? Okay, yeah, so it's failing inside the parser, and that's because our parser is not particularly resilient. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete the Talk Python podcast, and we're going to try and import that via the kind of search. Okay, yeah, so we say Talk Python, if I spell it right. We try and subscribe to this. Name episode is not defined. That's interesting. I've not yet used episode in here, so yeah. Just refresh, try again. Here we go. Unique constrained. Probably because it got halfway through and then blew up because we didn't do it in a transaction, which, yeah, we probably should do. Just delete you. So like if the whole thing, if an episode fails, then really the whole thing should fail. Talk Python to me. Subscribe. Let's see how far it gets this time. Okay, that's great. So now we have an actual ability to search and import podcasts from like the third-party podcast.org source. So now we can start searching for any podcast there is in the world and ingest that data into our podcast app, providing that the parser is resilient enough. But as demonstrated, the podcast parser is not particularly resilient because we've written it to only work really with one podcast for the time being. You can see that still we're getting occasional errors here, so yeah, we probably need to add the same max retries as we had in the search when we actually fetch this podcast. So there's a lot of things to do to make this a bit more user-friendly and a bit more resilient, but in the future episodes I imagine we can begin to make this a bit more serious and resilient. So yeah.